G'day there, Cygnets and Swanlings. 2012 Premiership player Nick Smith here. It's my pleasure, as always, to introduce a bevy of bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club, brought to you by Noddy and Stevo, a pair of red and white tragics. So pop on the kettle and settle in as the boys had an in-depth chat about the Swans' last game, the Swans' next game, and a little bit about footy too. This is Nick Smith signing off until next week's episode. But in the meantime, remember, be good to your bloods and they'll be good to you.
Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods. My name's Noddy and I'm joined once again by my regular co-host Chris. How you going, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Noddy. Good to be back, mate.
Welcome back to ABOB. In this episode number 46, we'll be chatting about the strong win against the Bulldogs in round 17 and the all-important upcoming game against Fremantle. So fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods. Last Friday evening, our Sydney Swans defeated the Western Bulldogs by 53 points, with us scoring 17, 18, 120 to their 9, 13, 67. Okay, mate, first impressions. What do you think of that?
Yeah, first impressions, it was a strong, pretty convincing win when you look at the scoreboard there. But there were moments of the game where we were really concerned that potentially going to drop it. So that second quarter of ours, I think we really, even our halftime review that we did from the ground, we really felt that we were a bit concerned that we saw another Essendon game coming our way where we would probably start turning off half time, but it looked like we came screaming out of the blocks again in the third and fourth and really put it away. From the Dogs' perspective, I mentioned to you before the game started that I wasn't sure who the team was that was out there warming up. I actually mentioned to you that I thought it was some kind of weird training team that was going to play a halftime game because I was like, they're really slow. They're not kicking straight. It's a bit weird. And then I had a closer look and I'm like, no, it's Cody Waitman. What's going on? And I guess that kind of transversed into the rest of the game. They were pretty ordinary and they really weren't up amongst it. So, yeah, interesting game, cold day. But, yeah, it's good to see that win and bank that away, mate. What about you? What about first impressions on your side?
Yeah, mate, chilly night in Sydney. Had a couple of days of dry, but then it looked a bit slippery underfoot. But with so much on the line, it was it was tense. We jumped out of the blocks, which was pleasing. Obviously, we were fully reversed that fourth quarter against the Bombers last week in terms of contested possessions. They came a bit back in the second. We pretty much closed out the third and fourth, but due to all the behinds, as you've already touched on, it really felt like they could come back into it at any point, much like the Bombers game. And after all the emotions had died down, it was clear that we'd comprehensively outplayed them. So really, it was an impressive victory. We had heaps of pressure, preventing them from moving the ball effectively. And we presented a bunch of turnover scoring opportunities, both forward half turnovers and intercepts. I will add, interestingly, it's the 7th time we've scored 100 points or more this year, and from those it was our third biggest positive margin. And the last time we put 100 points on the Dogs was round 22 of 2014, season 2014. Coincidentally, the result that day was 130 to 67. And I think they scored the exact same 9-13. So that was a bit eerie, but it was a while ago if you think about it. 2014, different teams, different era. But yeah, it was really pleasing to get the win. We really needed it, and we got it. So bloody stoked. All right, mate, key takeaways. What were yours?
Yeah, look, the first thing that I would say is just the way that Reid turned up in the ruck was huge for us. Like, we lost Laddams to a broken thumb. It looks like he might sit up a couple of weeks and get some surgery on that one. And we weren't really sure what was going to happen. And we had a Marty we could have thrown into the mix, but Reid's been playing that chop-out ruck for like the last however many weeks that Reid's been playing since maybe the game before Melbourne from memory. And his stats on the ruck, the chop-out ruck, has actually been quite good all the way through the season, sitting at 25-30%. And that seemed to continue. So, look, we were really a bit worried, weren't we, about what English, a brand new, fresh English might do to the team. He was best on ground in round 3, and last week we mentioned that he was probably a danger player for us in that he's a really hard matchup. He's really tall, very athletic, gets around the whole ground really well, smart footballer, can kick goals. He's got a lot of skill sets that, particularly unique in the AFL, and it seemed like we did a decent job of at least slowing him down, and he did not look himself, and we did a good job of it. Reedy jumping into the rock was massive, as I said. We had so Laddams had 25 hitouts and Reed had the 64. So quite obviously, the majority of the hitouts when were with him. The ruck contests were with him, and both Reedy and Laddams sit at 40% hitouts to win. So that's huge. So when we got a Reedy basically doing what a full-time ruckman in Laddams can do, and just throw him into the mix when we really needed him, he basically, was a massive contributor to the game, and can't say enough about the new and improved Reedy. It's just nice to see. And also Clarkey, Ryan Clark coming in at a last-minute sub to nullify Bailey Dale. Mate, that did an enormous job. We'll go through the numbers and a bit more impact of his impact later. But what a really good stroke of genius by Horse once again to nullify their most dangerous defender, rebounder, sharp kicker, good user of a ball, and then they were kind of just a bit stumped from the back of that. So that was pretty tidy, mate. What about yourself? Key takeaways or stats?
Yeah, mate. Look, I'm going to look at tackles, contested possessions, and uncontested possessions. So stick with me here. We get 89 tackles, right, to their 67, so plus 22. Our season average is 59. We beat that basically by 30, which is incredible if you think about it. I think Essendon only amassed about 30 in that game. We beat them in halfway through the year. So it really was sensational effort there in terms of pressure. And they had, that very mysterious pressure rating thing throughout the game. It was off the charts. It was 218. It was 9 on the Richter scale. I don't know I don't know how they work it out, but it was off the charts, obviously. Contested possessions, we were up plus 16 by the end of the game, 146 to their 130. We average 135. They average 140. So we were up on our average. They were down on our average. Uncontested possessions, 225 to 200, plus 25 to us. Our season average, 204. And their season average 236. So once again, we're up on our output and they're down on their output. So what this goes to show is that we just had huge pressure and we backed it up. We starved them with the ball. We kept it. We dominated. We had those, five goals to zip in the opening quarter. It could have been like that throughout the game, to be honest, with the pressure we were putting on. They came back into it at points, but really it was the story of our pressure. And even Horse, in the post-match press conference, was quoted saying, "Built on the back of our enormous pressure, we played a strong and sustained game of footy. We're able to score off the back of that with 35 scoring shots." But it was that strong and sustained game of footy. So that idea of that consistent four-quarter effort that everyone always talks about. But this was as close to that as I think we got this year against a genuine contender. Conversely, Bevo, on the other hand, I think was quoted as saying we were given a lesson. So that's quite humble coming from him. At one point, I thought he was going to have an aneurysm the way he was swinging those magnets around on the next to the field. But look, that's what I took away, mate. And really, we're if we have a quick analysis of where we sit, we're coming 7th now. We were precariously in 8th last week, so we're bumped up 1. We've increased a little percentage from 117 to 120. We've got the 10 wins, the 6 losses behind Collingwood and ahead of Richmond. Really, we're 1 win and a few percentage points from 4th, and I think it's only 2 games that separate 1st and 10th or something like that. It's a crazy tight ladder, and we really had to win this game, and we did. So, as I said, very, very, very happy. All right, I think we're going to move on to favourite moments, mate. What were yours?
Yeah, look, once again, Sammy Reid just rocking like the career absolutely depended on it. Like I just mentioned his stats before, but not only that, he had a big game around the contested football as well. Massive stuff going on there in pressure acts. He was second at the Swans. It's just tidy to see Sammy getting that done. I was just really happy with the way that he's played recently, and for him to just come into his own in a totally different kind of role, chop out once we've had someone go out injured, and he just stepped up. It was massive for the team, and just a really exciting thing to see Sammy just back into it and making some proper leeway into his career and a new modern Reed. You might see another 10 years of a healthy Reed. I've just touch wood once again. The other,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. The other thing that I really enjoy was the Papley Warner pressure acts around the ball. So we've seen Papley get more and more time in the mids, and with Millsy kind of rolling back a little bit outside, still getting himself involved with usage of the ball. But it seems like the pressure acts have been left to Papley and Warner. And in particular, they're screaming forward situations. So a few times in the game, we won a clearance, Parker's kind of fanged the ball up forward, balls to ground. You've actually got Warner and Papley running at full speed straight into that forward contest, and just putting loads of pressure around the users there. And the Bulldogs just didn't know what to do with that. And we scored a lot from the back of those kinds of pressure acts, a couple of goals from Heaney, the Rowbottom goal initially, the Clark goal. All of those kind of happen from really good pressure from the centre, and that just seems to be something we're doing now. So I don't know whether that's the general game plan with just seeing Papley and how good he is around the ball and putting pressure on players and pressure acts around there, but that was really fun to see and actually see a true representation of what the future might look like for us in coming into the finals, basically. What about yourself? Favourite moments, missed chances?
Yeah, mate, I've got a couple. Warner's first goal at the end of the first quarter. So we're back for a centre bounce, and the big lad wins the tap over English Mustard. Parker does this beautiful soccer-type clearance on Libba, take that Libba. Buddy and Heaney both contest. Papley comes through, scoops it up, handballs to Chad, who has left Bontempelli for dead. Yep. From the centre square, and kicks a very tidy goal to finish a dominant opening term, and no doubt one that I think Damien Barrett has been, for want of a better term, jerking off to. But Warner had a cracking game as well, and we'll talk about him. The other one was Heaney's sidestep goal in the third, just at the beginning of the third quarter. That whole play actually was fantastic. We worked it. I think it was maybe a defensive half turnover, and we just worked it down, kept pushing, and then, just ended up in his hands, and he did this little shimmy, and it was just Isaac Heaney doing Isaac Heaney heat things. It was crazy. Lastly, mate, I think it'd be remiss of us not to mention Juzzy's attempts, or legitimate or otherwise, of the modesty he showed in trying to keep the jersey together, try to keep that rig contained. Clearly, it was bursting out just all over the SCG there. But that was and I think Libba had a good smirk at that. But Juzzy, new haircut, can't keep a shirt on. So
yeah, look, when your haircut's that good and your rig is that good, mate, you must be on national TV with your shirt off. I got no problem with that, Juzzy. I respect it. If I was a younger man and if I had a better body than I did even back then, I would have been involved. But that's not the case. That wasn't the case. But good on you, Juzzy. It's always good to see you attempt modesty, which is not something I think comes natural to him. He's a good kid and he's cocky, and I really love it. I love it for it.
The fourth greatest showman at Sydney. All right, mate, next up is the ABOB medal, which is our equivalent of the Bob Skilton medal. I'll just qualify my previous comment. Obviously, Buddy, the greatest showman. And then I'm thinking Papley, Warner, and then Juzzy in that order. But anyway, probably didn't need to say that. Anyway,
we'll throw Heaney into that. That's fine.
The ABOB medal, our equivalent of the Bob Skilton medal. Bevy's best bloods this week in 3-2-1 points order were Chad, Papley, and Reed. Do you want to kick us off with Chad, mate?
Chad has been playing so consistently, so well, that finally, the VFL media has picked onto it. To the point where, as you mentioned earlier in the potty, Damien Barrett's now said that he is putting Chad up to potentially win a Brownlow, if not next year, the year after. He didn't qualify and say in his lifetime. He didn't qualify and say it in the next 5 or 10 years. He said 2023 or 2024. That's how much Damien Barrett is interested in what the big Chad's doing.
I did hear that just earlier before we started recording. He started saying before he retires, but then I think he got egged on by Corns and whoever else is on there. So he had to make it more of a sensational news story. And then that's when he said, if not 2023, if not this year, 2023 or 2024. So, look, it's nice that there's that sort of recognition happening. And it also feels good that he's having these sort of consistent game-breaking performances, because really this is the thing we've been talking about, the type of player that we're thinking about picking up or that we're missing. But, maybe he's here already, and we just need to nurture it. Not really, it's not really for now, but, the talk of Dusty is heating up again. I just don't understand it. But when Chad's doing things like, mate, I'm just going to hit him out, right? 25 disposals, Sydney's number third highest. Eight contested possessions, 17 uncontested, equals second with Parker and Fox. 11 inside 50s, 10 score involvements, 2 goals, 2 behinds, 20 out of 29 centre bounce attendances. So he was really, I mean, look, it probably could have been him or Papley, but I think we both went with Chad because he kicked fewer behinds. Yeah. But look, I think he was tracking to beat his previous, season high or career high against the Bombers. I think he ended up getting 13 inside 50s last week. So it was pretty close, but not quite there. But if we jump ahead and just look at Papley, I mean, his game was equally sensational. Electric, yeah. And it was difficult for me to split the two, but I know some Swans fans probably would have had Papley before Chad this week. But what did you make of Pap's game, mate?
Yeah, just look, this is the thing about the A-Bob and the Bob skills and everything. Like it is, and in the whole Brownlow situation, the mids get the love, right? And it's always been the way. They get plenty of touches, they get plenty of tackles, and the stats look solid, and it makes it really easy for you to kind of put them down on paper. And I guess Papley's a victim of that this week, and we are. But what I guess is particularly interesting when we now look at what Papley is doing in those centres, it's just his impact, not only just around the ball and getting touches, that's not so much important, but what's been really important is seeing him with his score involvements. Right, his 17 score involvements, the highest of the competition this entire year. Like, that is massive, right? And that's coming from a fellow who's he is an excellent small forward, and he's just getting involved, getting more of the ball from the outside of that 50, and he probably knows where the dangerous areas of the ground are. The most dangerous part for the forwards to be where they need to be running onto, where he needs to throw in a mongrel kick, throw one up to contest. So it's really super, super interesting to see someone like Papley thrown into mix because he's got a unique skill set that's not the typical contested ball or just possession getter or, ball magnet like a Neil or something. He's going to be, he obviously uses it very well. But just to see someone like him with all of his background being a small forward who's going to be able to throw an entirely different look into a midfield. And that's something that's super special that not many teams will be able to have. So huge from Papley, mate. What about yourself? What do you think?
Unbelievable, mate. Like, as you're saying, 24 disposals, 15 contested possessions, equal first with Reed, and we'll talk about him in just a second. As you said, 7. The score involvements was just sensational. Obviously kicked 2-5, and his radar's obviously not on, but he's around the ball. He's having a crack, and he's hungry for it. So kicked 1-3 last week, could have been 1-4. So look, he's getting his hands around the ball. He's dangerous. I don't see him as a hog. I think he's, if it goes his way, he's kicking it. He's kicking 7 goals. It's unbelievable. Imagine if he'd been 7-0 with those stats. Like, that would have been guaranteed 3 Brownlow points. Like, really career high game, like 5 goal assists as well. So his season average is 1.3, and he's never gotten any more than 2 in a game, and he's getting 5. And he had 9 centre bounce attendances, which coincidentally was the same as Laddams before he got subbed off with the thumb. But he was just so impactful. And they're not this. Warner and Papley, they're smaller than your traditional game-changing mids, in the type, like if you think about Dusty, DeGoey, Stringer, Petrarca, Wines even. If you think about these guys, you call them
Cripps,
bulls. Paddy Cripps as well, of course. Yeah, right, he's a giant. So they're not in that mould, but they're just dynamic, and they bring a point of difference, and they bring energy, and they bring speed and hunger, and we just saw it. The Papley tearing out of the center square. If he wasn't doing it, Chad was doing it, and has been pretty much all year. But Papley more so, as you're saying, as he's getting more and more chances through the middle, just for that point of difference. Sensational game. Obviously, he had the interview after the game, and he's aware of the fact that he's spraying a couple, but he himself said, you'd rather probably be, having shots on goal in general than not even getting your hands on the ball. And this guy's had 24 touches. So, yeah, I'm totally okay with that. But, yeah, if we talk about 15 contested possessions, then we do have to talk about Sammy Reid, who we've touched on already. But let's get into Sammy Reid. What a game.
Mate, what a game. Steve-O commented on our little chat earlier to say he wonders whether all the Sam Reid haters' Wi-Fi has just blown out. That's which is obviously a G up, but it's I've touched on it a couple of times already in the potty, and just to see Sammy doing what Sammy does now, a totally different Sammy, using him in totally different ways. But he's a smart footballer. He's gotten smarter over time. He looks a bit bigger. And he's just been good. He's just been so good, and he's not been having to be relied on to kick a goal necessarily. There's been times throughout the year where he's had his chances to kick goals, and hey, guess what? He's the same Sammy Reid. When you put him in front of goal, he's probably not the best goal kicker, but what he is good at is contested possessions, contested marks, being in the right place at the right time. We won a couple of close games last year of his positioning, of just being able to take a contested mark out in that wing at the right times. And he's just a really clever footballer. So to see him back in the game, see him back in the team and solidified his position in the team, not just in a matchup, but just looks like he's got a role in the team week in, week out. Just good to see. Our team is better with a player of his size and his skill set in it. And yeah, you just want to make sure that he stays healthy and gets it all done. The 28 pressure acts, man, that's massive. Like I said, second in the Swans anyway, fourth in the game all up from a ruckman, albeit with his 13 tackles, second at Sydney. You'll touch on a couple of extra.
13 tackles, mate.
13 tackles for your ruckman. Like
Mills got 16, which is unbelievable in itself, but 13 from your ruckman.
13 from your ruckman. Like that's
bonkers.
Like I never thought of Reedy as a tackle specialist, and he's not. But when he's close to the ball and he's hungry, that's what he gave the team. He's got leadership in him, and it's not the kind of leadership potentially says anything, but it leads from example. So it's nice to see.
25 hitouts, 64 ruck contests at, as you said, just under 40%, which was as good as Laddams and Amati with their, as they were running. 15 disposals, all contested possessions. 13 tackles, 28 pressure acts, equal second with Parker. Mills had a game out as well.
Yeah,
35 pressure acts, 16 tackles, as we were saying, one or two goals, one I think. But yeah, Reedy 7 clearances, which was equal second with Rowie. Parker had 7, but he's playing that role. Obviously, it was through necessity with Laddams out. Laddams was looking pretty good early on. I have to say as well. He was
much so.
Getting a bit of a run at it, and he was lively as well. So it's a bit of a shame because he was looking, he was shaping up well. But for Reid to step in and play the rest of the game the way that he did, this is probably a topic for the hot topics, mate. But I'm just going to throw it out there now. Hickey's obviously a really nice to have at this point. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do you play Reid as your main ruck? So if he doesn't win the tap, he's going to circle back and put huge pressure on their ruckman or their inside mids. He's like, it's unbelievable the defensive work he's doing at the moment. And I honestly didn't see it coming. I think he might be the fittest he's ever been. Imagine if this is to do with the state of his body. And if if he'd actually been healthy and had a bit more of a run throughout different positions, it might be a different story. Because you've got to remember, Paddy Ryder's a shorter ruckman in the scheme of things. Tim English is 206 centimetres. Gawn is 211 or something. So these are legitimate giants. But Paddy Ryder's 196, 97, which is the same height as Sammy Reid and Amadi. So he's really kind of like this, modern hybrid forward ruck. But it was just an unbelievable game. I was just I think like everyone, just really happy for him that he's putting it together, really happy that he's playing so well, and just really hoping that we can keep it together. But do you bring Hickey in? Anyway, that's a question for Hot Topics.
That's a question for Hot Topics. What about honourable mentions, mate? What other players did you see in your size that you felt deserved a bit of love?
Yeah, I already mentioned Millsy, so I'll just recap that. Game high 35 pressure acts, game high 16 tackles, game high 4 inside 50 tackles. So it really was just a game of defensive pressure. Paddy McCartan, 14 marks, 4 contested, 7 intercept marks. Continues to lead the league in intercept marks. He had 22 disposals at 86%, Sydney's 4th highest. 16 kicks at 94%, first in Sydney. What a 50th game. So it was his 50th game, so 50th AFL game, mind you. But yeah, just an unbelievable game. I thought he played really, really well. And then obviously Heaney, just really quickly, 4 goals, 0 behinds, lively and accurate. And that's pretty much from me, Matt. I might have stolen all the juicy ones there. But
that's not a problem.
I'll pass over to you now.
Yeah, look, Clarkey deserves some love. And I think, does Clarkey, right off the bat, mate, does Clarkey have a role in, week out, or do we still use him as a specialist? What's on your eyes?
How can he not? I mean, this is a little bit Hot Topics here as well, but how can he not? If he's done a job on Jack Sinclair and now Bailey Dale, every team's got that type of player. And if he's in and he's kicking 1 and 2 goals and doing that sort of, having that sort of effect, I don't know. It'd be hard not to pick him, surely. But
you send him over and then see what's going on, see who's playing. Look, we'll talk about it in a little bit. We've got Freo coming up this week, and I'm sure there's a player that he can just lean on, knowing what he can do. Proven 2 weeks in a row, and he's proven in other games as well in other seasons. But for sure, the last 2 games, he's absolutely nullified some of the best ball users in the game and did it convincingly. So, look, huge. Bailey Dale was down to 6 touches for the game when you take away the 10 kickouts, which are free and cheap bonus points that are effectively only useful for fantasy players. But the 6 disposals that Dale was forced down to, that's just insane, man. That's just crazy. So, yeah, super good. Super good. Can't say enough about Clarkey. He's gotten a lot of love around the traps as well. Off the back of these last 2 weeks, it's not been unnoticed, so that's been pretty tidy. It's good to see some of the Swannies fans getting some love. And, hey, Noddy, remember that week that we sat around drinking at the SCG when Clarkey came out and did laps around the SCG and we were drunkenly screaming out support?
I do.
That wasn't that long ago, and I would like to say that the bevy has been a big part of his career to get to this point. What do you think?
I'd say you're about as modest as Juzzy with a ripped Guernsey, mate. But yeah, I do remember that, and it was a fun little moment because I think it was after the Saints game. Their Medi sub was doing a bit of running as well, and there were a bunch of Saints drunk fans and us, and we're both cheering on. And then we all got kicked out. But yeah, look, I think it's reasonable enough to say that we had a hand in that, for sure. But no, it's very positive. I know he's one of these, not divisive, but like he's certainly a talking point, And I also, I'm not innocent. I had, like a lot of fans, seeing Clark come into the team and for whatever reason not really cut it at the top level and then go back down to the seconds and just tear it up. But these 2 games that he's played recently have shown, I think, more than enough that he's a real solid team player. He does his role perfectly. And if he continues to play like that, then he's absolutely keeping the likes of, Braden Campbell, even though it's a slightly different role, but certainly Sammy Wicks, Ben Ronk and James Bell out of the team because deservedly so. He's playing well. But do we punish him if he doesn't kick a goal? Because remember, you're doing a job on these players. If you don't also then kick a goal, it's not as attractive. But it depends on what his objective, if Horse is saying, I just want you to do a shutdown job on this player, anything else is nice, but you just focus on this. Like, depends on the message. But Yeah, I don't know, mate. What do you think of Foxy's game? I thought he played pretty well.
Yeah, we were calling it out earlier, and I thought he was playing really tidy. He was getting around a lot. He was the one thing about Foxy. The guy can run. He can put on a lot of Ks. He won't be outrun by many forwards. Like he's very, very good there. And he was really getting around all around the ground. Just being able to lean up some support as well and come up a bit more forward, given the way the game was going. 23 disposals at 83% efficiency, 13 of them being kicks, 85%. So that's, fourth at Sydney. So, good on Foxy. Glad to see him in the game. Glad to see him just kind of, keep his spot. And he's a good player. I like to see him every single week. And if you're not calling him out, then chances are he's doing a decent job there in defence. I think a couple of his earlier weeks he had a bit of a lapse for a quarter here and there, but it's been very solid from Foxy. And this week he deserves some love for sure in at least a mention around the A-Bob.
Yeah, definitely, mate. He just looked sharp and, he was certainly a contributor. Coaches' votes, mate, it was one-way traffic. It was all red and white. We had Warner on 9, Papley on 8, Reid on 6, Paddy on 4, Heaney on 2, and 1 was Captain Cal Mills. So we got a royal flush there, mate.
I will also mention just quickly that 1 and 2, in terms of the voting for this week, was 1 and 2. We kind of knew that. And I asked the question for number 3 to the Twitter media, Twitter world, and it was a resounding response for Reid, with Millsy and Paddy McCartan getting a bit of love, but mostly Reedy. Everyone was really rapt to make sure that Reedy gets that single point. So that's good to hear from the whole community.
Awesome, mate. And didn't he do a job? Fantastic. Yep. All right, mate. Well, we're on to hot topics. We've teased that we're going to be talking about hot topics a fair few times already tonight. So how did we pull up after the match? What changes will we make? How was the VFL? We didn't have a game, so we'll skip that. And any news in the AFLW? So off the top, mate, we've already spoken about the big lad. Broken his thumb, out for 2 to 3 weeks potentially. So that is pretty much through to finals, all going well. So we spoke about this earlier. The Hick missed a week due to illness. I'm guessing that's some sort of seasonal related influenza. Who knows? But you'd imagine that he's probably ready for selection. But because of how the team played, do you tinker with that, or do you just go, "Hey, Reedy, you've got keys to the kingdom, mate," and then have the likes of Amadi. And then if you want to potentially have who else could chop in there? I mean, look, I don't know. What do you think, mate?
Look, right off the bat, I'm going to say I think Hickey came back a bit underdone for sure last week. He had we spoke about it last week. He had the single clearance. He's obviously not the Hickey that we expected to have. I don't know whether he was affected last week from the illness or from his toe turf and his injury there, or what it was. But he definitely was underdone, and so I don't think that last couple of games, even the last 4 or 5 weeks rather, have been a representation of what our best ruckman is. Ladders has come into it really well this year, and without him in, I'd still say we roll back to Hickey to give him that chance to do what Hickey does, because he's just, when he's on, it's been such a beautiful and tidy thing. He gets so many clearances. He's got great pressure around the ball. He puts on his own tackles. He just does a really solid job in the middle there. And I would love to still keep Reedy as that swinging man out back or forward or in the ruck if need be. That's where I see it. How do you feel? Do you feel any different? Do you feel one way or another?
So, sorry, mate, just let me recap. My mind was going away there just with all this wonderful talk of Reid. Hickey in or out? Hickey
in for me. Hickey stays doing his role, yeah.
So does Amadi stay in though?
For Logan.
Did you cover that already?
No, haven't touched on that. So I guess of last week we did mention that probably Logan needs to set up a week from recollection. And that's exactly what ended up happening. Are we better for it is the question. Just because we won the game doesn't necessarily mean that our structure up forward is better for it. But
we did call that one though, didn't we? We called that one on the potty.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, look, Amadi, I think, had a very good game. He had a very good first quarter and then just sort of played his role for the rest of the game, kicked a couple of goals, which is, one more than Logan's kicked in the 3 weeks when he was kicking, 11 or whatever when Marty was in the twos. So over the same period. So look, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the fact that there was no VFL game, I'm thinking that Party stays in potentially. I know it's a big call, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe he just he's one of the. Maybe he he's obviously got had to take his chances, had to do what he he had to make a bit of an impact. And when Buddy's clunking contested marks and Amadi is too, it looks pretty good up there, doesn't it? So I don't know. It might be a bit hard for Logan to squeeze back in, but yeah, look, if Hickey does come in and you keep Reed and you don't change Logan. Now, yeah, I think someone's got to go if you bring Hickey in. So, yeah.
And do we send Logan over to the WA as well? We're back to his hometown to give the locals there a showcase of what they could throw money out down the path.
Yeah, I don't know if we'd be. Oh, well, we've already signed him up, so I think he's good. But yeah, look, I think he'd definitely be in the game day, attending team. So he'll certainly be in the mix. It's just whether or not they're going to tinker with that, obviously, because I think when you play as well as you did against the Dogs, who are still a very good team, then yeah, I don't know. When you played the way that we did, you'd be reluctant to make any changes, but you got to, because you've got Hickey who really is proven at that level. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think you. What about Blakey and Rowie? You got a few comments there.
Yeah, like just before I touch on, actually, I was going to say that Freo is a very, very different team to the Dogs. Their style of game and their style of play isn't so different. So. And I think that's going to make all the big difference to what the selections are, not just on form, also on personnel. So let's talk about that in a moment anyway, when we talk about the game upcoming. But yeah, so I noticed something on Twitter that the AFL ratings had come out and they were breaking them down by age group. So by age 19, 20, 21, so on and so forth. And it's really great to see. We've got Errol Gordon, number 1 AFL rated for 20-year-olds. Bang. There you go. We would, as Sydney Swans fans, we would say that because we believe it. But
heck yeah,
it's official. You also got in the 21 group, you've got Chad Warner coming in at 4th in the player ratings. Massive. Now look at the names above him too, and around him. Matt Rowell, Tom Green, Noah Anderson, then our Chad, and then Caleb Sarong following him. Those names across the board there are names you're going to be hearing across the competition over the next 10 years. They are game changers. Between them, they're going to be winning premierships. So, yeah, that's massive. Good to see him amongst
Except those other guys weren't third-round draft pick.
That's a big point, actually. That's a really good point. A couple of them, a single one. So, in the 22 categories, the 22-year-olds, Nick Blakey coming in at 2nd behind Sam Walsh in the ratings there, and also Rowbottom at number 5. So that's Blakey cool. 2nd and Rowbottom 5 for the 22-year-olds, which is huge. Again, let's look at the names around that. Sam Walsh, followed by Blakey, Connor Rosie, Isaac Rankin, and then our Rowbottom. Massive names, like
awesome.
Industry standard names across the board here. These are huge, huge names. So, just had a look at that. Figured it's worthwhile having a chat there about that one. It's just super, super good. And credit the Rowbottom fan page on Insta and Twitter for bringing that up. Those guys are massive Rowbottoms fans. I don't know if they're related to the family or something, but they are all about it, mate. And they're good value. They're having some fun on that side.
Actually, I'll shout out something that Rowie did. I think it was in the first quarter. He went back and put a massive body on, I think, JJ or one of their players. No, Scott maybe. Maybe it was when he injured him. He actually injured himself. It's when he went off. I think he got a corky or something. But he just did this huge defensive effort and shut them down when they looked like they were about to score. And then from there, I think it landed in the hands of Errol. And he did that beautiful clearing right foot rebounding 50. And I think we looked at each other from the stands and just went, did Errol just kick on his right? And it was, of course, lace out. But, yeah, that was a really, really nice moment from Rowie. Obviously, Rowie got first goal of the game too and was just a really good performer throughout. But, yeah, no, Rowbottom fan page, get amongst it.
They're good.
A few things from the game, just real quickly, add on crowd size. Now, I think we've seen a couple of numbers run out there on the few sites that we access to get our facts straight. I don't know if it was 22,000. I'm trying to recall it. I'd had a few bevies, but I think they flashed up one number. It was 22,000, and then maybe the second number, 26,000.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I wasn't drinking at the time. So despite Noddy and I talking about having a few beers on Friday, I actually came back from Vietnam with serious gastro. So I am a lighter, faster, fitter man than before, but just with no beers in me. It was 100. It was totally 22, and about 30 seconds later, the score guys, ladies and gentlemen, it's actually 26,000 and whatever. And yeah, we're all like, oh, okay, fair enough. And then we looked around and looked about 26. Good, we'll take that. But the official number is 22. So who do we believe, mate? Is it a conspiracy? Should we talk to someone? What's going on?
Man, I thought there were 36,000 people there. So, but yeah, that sort of shows you the mood I was in. But yeah, look, I don't know. It was a small crowd comparatively for I think our average, which is about sitting around 30 this year. But yeah, I think you put that down to all the recent rain, the fact it was quite chilly, and it's a Friday night. Some people struggle to get out to the footy after work. But the other thing, the post-goal music celebration was, let's say, random.
Yeah.
It just seemed like, I think someone said that someone had received like an iPod and they were just doing a random shuffle and going, yeah, let's play this after each goal. And of course we had a stack of goals, so we had a lot of different music. I don't know if they were just trialing, but what did you make of the music, mate? It was it's a bit hard to get a groove on.
Yeah, more concerned that you'd mentioned iPod. I haven't heard about that in about 10, 15 years. But
I did that deliberately to sound retro, mate.
Retro. Yeah, look, I'm done with Spotify. Yes. Can we just get over them? Can we just stop the post-goal music? Unless there's a reason
you said that
for
before,
it.
haven't you?
Yeah, I'm done with it. Like, I strongly recommend that we just keep the didgeridoo sound. I love that sound. I think that's grand. I think that'd be really a special moment, and a special indicator of what we find important. Just playing some random hit by some random person is irrelevant. It's so irrelevant. I'm so done with it. We're not going to a football game to listen to music. I'm going there to
couldn't even tell you the names of the people, the music they were playing.
No,
there were a couple that we knew, but some of the early ones, they just sounded like indie pop dance hits, and I was like, I'm a little too old for these, I think.
I'm like, there's not a single person at the stadium that is in this, like, is pumped about this song. Like, it's a waste of time.
I don't know. I wonder if the players maybe the players chose it. Maybe it was what round was it?
That's a bigger concern.
Players choose the music round, or
that's because some of the music quality on that was just ordinary. And I know they play football, they don't choose music, but yeah, I need to have a chat with them if that's the case, because that was poor.
Have a word, mate. All right, AFLW, mate. I think we've got a few things there to announce.
Couple things. So VW is the new sponsor at the AFLW in the same way they are for the regular men's team, which is huge. So we've got Bingley and VW now sponsoring the women's comp, the Swannies, which is grand. Now, this is particularly special for me because I think I was behind a bus the other day, and there was advertising the sponsor for the Roosters, the East Sydney Roosters, the league team, and they're an institution, right? Noddy, you'd say, like a Sydney institution.
Yeah, like they're the Roosters, very big powerhouse club sort of thing.
Yeah, they were sponsored by, I swear to you, some just bloke who made up a website and just created some fake company that's related to some finance thing, but not. I'm like, what is this? Like, that's their sponsor? Like, that's the quality of sponsorship they have? And it made me laugh at the time. And then the next day I see that VW is also sponsoring the AFLW team, and I was like, hell yeah, that's the kind of quality of board we need to go and grab those proper sponsors. So that's where I'll leave that there.
Definitely, there's obviously some synergy there with the blokes.
Yes, for sure.
So it makes sense, I think. but it's just good to see that you've got that sort of global brand, stepping up to support the ladies as well. So did you see that they had their first training session last night, mate?
Yeah, that looked fantastic. There was a good, what would you say? It's a great session. They were coming down the Port Kelly race. Yeah, and they were surrounded by the men's team, and just a really good look, just a beautiful camera shot too. Just looks like a supportive club we have across the board, and that just seemed nice. And I think the way that Rampy said something really lovely, and I haven't got the exact words, but something to the effect of it now feels that we're complete. And that's a really nice way to say we have two teams in the competition, all in, wearing the same colours, with fans across the board. Going to love them both. Just really, really special.
And then the Royal Hall of Industries will be up and running at some point, maybe this year, early next year, and both teams training out of there. And just be all we need to do, mate, after this is be a member-run club. Not owned by the AFL. That'll be the light. But I don't know if that's going to happen if Harley becomes the AFL CEO.
No, he's going to get more money for us. But the other thing that we need to talk about as well is the AFLW game attendance membership is now available as of today. So
nice.
The membership before this was just to do with the foundation membership. There's like a supportive membership. And now the actual game attendance memberships are now available. There seems to be two different categories. There's one for just the regular attendance, and I saw that only being $25 on top of your existing AFLM membership, which is a bargain. It's like to go to every single game you can go to. Incredible. There's also $150 that comes with like a bunch of merchandise, a tote bag, and all this kind of fun stuff. So jump online, go to the Swannies page, check your emails if you're a member, and look, if it's only $25 to show your support for the team, go do it, make it happen. Be that extra support for our game, and let's make the Swannies AFLW team the biggest AFLW team around, because we're much needed, I think.
Mate, I'm very keen for us to get out to the Henson Oval game at least, because that's where my partner and I had one of our very first dates. And she was a trooper. I think I mentioned this to Steve on the podcast last year. I've sort of explained what Aussie Rules was and who the Swans were, and I took a bunch of merch and like a trooper, she put it on, and pretty much fell in love from there. But so now we get to see the ladies have a hit out at the Henson. We'll maybe steal some craft beers in, or buy whatever's available. Certainly, if there's furfies at hand, I'll probably partake. But it should be an awesome day out at every one of these games that we have, both locally and away. So really looking forward to it. Really can't wait. Yeah. Have we got anything else in Hot Topics, mate, or are we...
just one last thing. With all the coach movements around, you've got what David Noble at the Kangaroos have been let go of as of today, and the word is around, they're trying to find a replacement for him, trying to find a well-qualified replacement, considering the last two goes at it. The board over there at the Kangaroos have literally just, opened the door outside of their office and just picked the first guy that was kind of standing there. So now
I thought they were giving him like a proper run, and like they were okay with losing. I thought that was the spin that they spun when he brought him in.
I'm pretty sure that's what they. Yeah, you're right. I'm pretty sure that's what they said even at the beginning of this, like 3 or 4 games into this year. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they were taking a long-term view, and
who knows what's going on over there, mate. Yeah. So anyway, Don Pike is obviously amongst the mix. Ex-Crows coach. Did an incredible job there, considering the situation that he was thrown into. And they've asked him, and his response was very, very, very solid from a Swans perspective. He said, quote, I'm enjoying working with John Longmire. The group's in a very exciting phase, and at this stage I see myself staying and doing what I'm doing into next year, which is fantastic to hear. So that's Donny Boy is not going anywhere. They've already thrown money at Horse, and he's already knocked it back. So I think we're safe at the very moment.
I mean, there's a couple names in the mix. Obviously, Clarko, I think Simo. I wasn't sure if he was actually finished up at the Eagles, but I guess the season they're having. I mean, why would you bring on the 17th place team coach? I mean, yeah, he won a flag in 2018, but maybe it's the North Melbourne connection. They want to bring him in. I think he played there, right? So, and did Clarko play there or Melbourne? I think he was Melbourne, wasn't he?
But, no, Clarko was at the Roos, I thought, for a while there.
Played Roos as well.
Yeah,
well, there you go. So maybe that's... And John Blakey's obviously there, Lizard's dad.
Yeah.
Senior Lizard. So, it's going to be interesting. But listen, that game against the Pies, the Roos very nearly beat them. I wonder if they had beaten the Pies, whether they would have given him a 3-year extension, the way that they seem to be making decisions.
I think that board is exactly in that position. They just don't know what... it's hilarious. I don't know what's going on over there, mate.
Maybe we should just throw all this money that we're talking about giving Dusty to Jason Horne-Francis and bring him here to Sydney. Clearly he's not happy. So, or Luke Davies-Uniacke. He's starting to show a bit of promise, and that former pick number 5. So there's a few players that could be targeted potentially out of North Melbourne. But yeah, obviously our focus is to shore up Buddy and then figure out how we're going to keep all these young guns tracking along nicely. So I think that's the end of Hot Topics, mate. We may as well move on to the quick preview, and I'll just give a bit of context, obviously, before we lead into that. So on the back of that win, obviously, where we are now 7th on 10 wins and 6 losses, we have 6 games remaining, and we need at least 3 more to reach the magical 13, which usually guarantees you a place in the finals. So we need 3 from 6. The 6 games remaining are Fremantle away, Adelaide at home, Giants at home, North away, Collingwood at home, and St Kilda away. So first and foremost, Fremantle this weekend. We've got 3rd place Freo versus 7th place Sydney, which should be a cracker just on paper. Optus Stadium from 7:30 local Sydney time, Saturday 16th of July. Obviously, Freo is 4 wins from the last 5. We are 3 from the last 5. From our previous 5 against Freo, they've beaten us 3 times, and they had a 3-year run from 2019, 2020, 21. There were a couple of close games there in the wet, and then we snapped that in 2021 with a decent win. Freo obviously have an ability to get a lot of disposals. They're second, we're 15th conversely. They're also quite efficient with it. They're second in the league for disposal efficiency as opposed to us at 10th. Now you can take that with a grain of salt because I think the Bombers are first or third for disposal efficiency. So doesn't really mean too much unless you're getting the wins with it, which they are. They are sitting on 12 wins and 4 losses, right? So they've had scalps against major teams in the top 8. They've only lost to Collingwood and Carlton, where they dipped a little bit, and then the Saints and Suns as well. And the Suns are, as we know, playing really well this year. So they are a seriously good team. They're looking very good. Obviously, we're more of a pressure team. We're 3rd in the league for tackles. They're 9th. And we're probably more an offensive team on the back of that pressure, where we're coming 5th for goals or, points, whereas they're coming 10th. Danger players, mate. Who do you know from Freo that we should shout out here and say we've got to look out for these guys?
Yeah, look, you've got a few names down here, and these are exactly the ones. You've Brayshaw, Fife, Lobb, Darcy, Young. They're all solid players, mate. And Fife is trying to find himself a new role in amongst it all. He's kind of rolling up forward and being a super dangerous player there. He's a big fella. And so playing forward is nothing that's outside of his actual game.
Little known stat, he's number 1 league leader for massive arms. So the guy's crazy.
It's
he
looks like he
could play rugby union for sure.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Clarkey before. I think Jordan Clark is coming good for them. Obviously, ex-Cat. He's a WA boy. He's gone back there, and he's it's clicking as the rest of the Dockers are. I think it's either Clark or Hayden Young if Ryan Clark holds. So Clark on Clark might be interesting. But yeah, I think Brayshaw's really the one that the likes of Millsy and or Parker probably going to have to sit on, because he's having quite a year as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And he's one of those players. He's very, very good with the ball. He's very, very smooth. And you mentioned it a bit like just before. Their style of game is very different. They don't rely on manic play. They don't rely on necessarily the pressure around the ball. They're just really good users. Skill sets are very high with that team, and they know their game plan and execute it very well. They're a very fun team to watch, actually. So to watch them this week against us playing a different brand of footy, was going to be super, super tidy.
I think this is one of the ones where I think most fans or AFL, people in the industry would say that Freo at home, as they're playing, even with Swans at the top of their game, and let's face it, we tend to play up as opposed to playing down, meaning that we play better when we play higher placed teams and typically worse when we play lower placed teams. But even with that, I'm not seeing this as a game that is going to be easily winnable. Well, I think we'll have to play out of our skin to get this one. But if we can, then it will make the rest of our season very, a lot smoother. But yeah, it's certainly not confident with this one, mate. Rory Lobb, apart from falling in a bucket of peroxide this week, that guy. How on earth he's really not a people person, is he? Requesting trades, and where's he wanting to go now?
He wants to go back to Victoria, I think.
Victoria,
yeah.
And play for who? Who's he teaming up now?
I don't know. He was at GWS. He requested a move to WA. GWS said no, because at that point they'd already been shaved of a few players in the same way, and I think they got to a point they were just like, we need to start putting up a stand now. And they said no, and they just sat him, and he didn't play a whole season while his contract ran out, and then he went over to WA to play for Freo, and now he's doing the same thing where he wants to just move back home to Victoria. I mean, in any other job, fine. You can just move around whenever you want. You can quit a job and move on with it. But when you sign a contract like this, and it's just the nature of it, it obviously puts a big dent into a team's plan and expectations. So it's a bit of an ordinary move for him. I mean, we don't know what's going through his mind. We don't know the reasons why he wants to make the move, but it doesn't come across as too well when you do it twice, eh?
Yeah, it seems like you're the common denominator there. Lobb has personal issues with Fremantle. He's got personal issues with success, does he? The Bulldogs and Saints are key suitors for the big man. I can see the Saints, obviously Ryder. I'm not sure how old Lobb is. He's probably late 20s, but you could fit in there with Ryder potentially at the end of his career, but maybe the Bulldogs helping English mustard there. But I just found that a bit. It's obviously always a bit prickly when a player requests a trade and then they get denied, and then they're like, it's just business. But there's a lot of emotion in footy, and a lot of guys who are saying, I thought we were mates, all this sort of stuff. So interesting. Let's see how that goes.
He's a big guy.
Did you pick the tip? I can't remember.
For last week.
Did you go out on a limb? Yeah, for this game.
For this one coming up? No.
Yeah,
no.
Freo.
I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it.
Okay.
And I think the reason for me leaving this is because the success we had against the Dogs and the failure, the miserable failure that was my tip against the Bombers. So keeping my mouth shut.
Can you believe the Bombers? If we'd won the game, all right, so the Bombers beat Brisbane. There's like 8 or 9 players out from the Lions with COVID. Yeah. So, they win by 10. It doesn't look as bad. If you didn't know about the players out, you're like, oh, okay, at least the Bombers beat the Lions. It doesn't make us feel as bad by losing by whatever it was, 9 or something.
But they were missing a lot of good players. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was like a lot of their defensive unit. But like if we'd won that one as well, right, and then we pull off this big win against the Bulldogs, as we did, look, I think we'd be 4th or at least 5th or 4th or maybe even 3rd, depending on the percentage. But
this is the competition, mate, isn't it? Like the competition is so damn tight. It's so damn tight, and this is a much. This is a must-win game for both the teams to make sure they get that slide in. It's a finals game. Eventually, it's going to be. We'll probably play each other first week or second week of finals. If it comes to that. So. Look, at the exact same time on Saturday, so 7:25 this coming Saturday, you've also got another crack of a game, Carlton and Geelong. So two games at the exact same time, both must win. Fuck. I'm struggling with that.
Must watch and must win.
Win games for
they've nailed this
teams.
Floating fixture, haven't they, Chris? They've put two of the best games on at the same time on the same day.
Yeah, you look at
well done, guys.
The North Richmond game is all by itself. Fantastic, good stuff, guys. And the Hawks Eagles game is all by itself. That's a space that could have been ours to watch the game without any disruption. But no, we've got to play at the same time as the other absolute cracking game. And all four of those teams were touted to be in the top 6. So what is the AFL doing? I don't know. So whatever.
They've stuffed that one up. Well, at least they said they're getting rid of that next year. They're going to lock in the first, whatever it is, 16 rounds, so people can start to plan a bit better. So I think that's going to be a change for the positive. They finally listen to the people. I wonder if they'll listen. Well, they listened to the dissent rule. I guess they've relaxed that a bit. But I wonder the Bulldogs won the free kick count as well. I can't believe I haven't said anything. 19-13. I guess it doesn't matter as much when you win.
Now, and it doesn't make apparently a difference to your win rate. While we're on that, I do want to talk about this. The holding call against Dill Stephens. Now, Dill Stephens was being held. What was that call? That was the most perplexing call I've ever seen. I don't know what is going on over there.
Yeah, look, I think if you look at the right angle, you can see that, JJ's got his hand, but there is a slight jumper tug from Dill.
Oh, okay.
But it's because he might have been holding on and then JJ pulls his arm. It was very clear at the ground that JJ was holding Dill, and Dill legitimately went back thinking he won the free kick. And then, of course, you watch it all in slow motion. You can see a little bit of blue jersey, get pulled off the body. But yeah, look, I would notch that one. We went bonkers for that one, didn't we? Another one, that downfield free kick that Norton got. You watch that in replay, and there's absolutely nothing there. So there are two free kicks that led directly to goals. That
I'm pretty sure both the same umpire too.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's just funny how they were everyone talks about the reason that the free kick bullfrogs that they're at the top of the free kick differentials because of their game style. Their contested footy, first to the ball. We comprehensively beat them in that area, and we lose the free kick count by 6 at home.
Yep. No,
when we beat them by 53. What do you? My position about the Bulldogs getting free kick preferential treatment doesn't change. My emotion, I'm just handling it better because we flogged them. So, and I think a lot of Swans fans would be in the same boat. But look.
No,
anyway.
As someone, we've had this chat a couple of times. As someone who tries to sit on the I don't care side of the discussion, and by that I mean I actively don't want any conversation that's about the umpiring. I'm just it does not matter in the real scheme of things. The bad calls outweigh the bad calls, and it just kind of comes out in the wash. This one was really perplexing. The calls this week were just really ordinary, and they were confusing, and they didn't seem consistent. And like you said, we were first to the ball, and yet we didn't go our way.
Papley report, there was absolutely nothing there.
Nothing in that one.
He even said that rattled him, right?
Yeah.
Apart from the behinds, it didn't seem to rattle him. But one thing I was going to say is the thing that's really bugged me in the past couple of weeks, and I feel like there's a conspiracy here that, they're attacking our game style, which is because we've got such great kickers. We do a lot of those short chips up the corridor to change the angles. How often have we seen in the last 2 weeks not 15 play on?
And how many times have we had
I almost broke the ears of the lady sitting in front of me towards the end of the game, screaming 12, or when they were kicking it short, 14 and a half. When they were kicking it short, it was fine. It was a mark. But there was a lot of calls that's not 15 play on.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how is that possible?
And overrunning.
When you see short kicks all the time.
And overrunning as well. Have you noticed that they're starting to call it a lot more? That's the Blakey taking on 20 meters instead of the 15.
Right,
They're doing that a whole
Dill
lot
Stevens,
more now.
Didn't he get caught?
He got
would have been
pinged for that, and that would have been a
goal.
goal. So yeah.
Look, I don't know. I rewatched that 3 times, tried to count his steps, and I got lost between 13 and 16. Okay, after 3 takes on it, I watched it back to back. I couldn't tell from the slow motion replay whether he'd run 13 or 16 meters. So how did they know he'd run over 15 live? I don't know. I mean, they're saying he started at the 50 meter arc and he ended halfway in. Okay, that's 25. So I don't know. I watched it again 3 times and I was counting his steps. So maybe I gave him 3 or 4 free ones at the beginning. But
perplexing. Really is.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
Does Dill Stevens keep? Sorry, this is a bit late mail. Does Dill Stevens hold his spot?
I don't know.
Maybe he's the one that gives way.
I think so. We watched him play. I kept my eye on him. I don't want this to sound like I'm a hater of Dill Stevens. I'm not. I'm actually quite excited about him. I think he's got a good career ahead of him. But he's just not playing that consistent football. And we saw a few moments at the game where he was not marking his man. He was in the wrong positioning defensively.
They were avoiding him.
They were avoiding passing the ball to him. So it's just
passing to him.
Yeah, it's not a great look. He's obviously not entirely trusted from the team there. So maybe that's something to be said to the decisions. Yeah.
He had a few good moments though. He's running hard. He did a few good inside 50s. He's got that goal.
Yeah. His effort's been good.
I think.
Zero complaint of effort.
Yeah.
Effort has been really good and he's very fit. So yeah, that's solid. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, we'll see how we go on Thursday. I think we're up to one last thing, mate, and this I'm going to hand over to you. This is
one last thing. I brought my mate Nigel, who lives in Perth, a Swans membership as a birthday gift last year. And I asked him, are you going to the game this week? And he said, I didn't know it was on. And I've never been more angry at him and in my life. And we played in a band together. We've been mates since we were like 15 years old. And I've been pissed off at him a lot of times. And this one's really got me. So watch this space. I'll make sure he gets to the game or make him do a halftime review, because if he doesn't, friendship is over. That's basically what we're up to, Nige. I'm done with you, mate. You can make it happen.
It's official. It's on the potty. It's real, Nige. Is he going to have sat through an hour and 5 minutes to get to this thread at the end? I should hope so. It's friendship. It counts on it. So, all right, mate. Well, fingers crossed this weekend against the Dockers, and hope that Nige gets there and can step up for us. Otherwise, it's going to be tough times there. But all right, well, that brings us to the end of this episode. So on behalf of the Bevy, I'd like to say thank you to all you Cygnets and Swanlings out there listening in. Make sure to keep following us on Instagram and Facebook at A Bevy of Bloods for various content, updates and announcements. Until then, up the Bloods and come you Swannies. Come boys, here we go.